My goal is that ultimately what will happen to participate in a clinical trial is we'll have older adults in their flip-flops and their golf carts coming in to be part of our clinical trial.
But there are certain effects of global climate change that have not been talked about much in the media that people need to be aware of.
I want my city to be the best that it can be. And that's why USF is coming. They're going to help us figure that out.
Hello and welcome to University Beat. I'm Denise White. Finding a cure for Alzheimer's disease or any disease requires clinical trials, but such trials need dozens, if not hundreds, of test subjects from across the spectrum of sex, race, and economic class. And many of these people have limited access to trial locations. But now the USF Health Byrd Alzheimer's Institute is able to go to the people thanks to what's believed to be the first of its kind mobile memory research suite. University Beat's Mark Schreiner takes us on a tour.
Yay, it really cuts too.
On the outside, it may look like your average trailer, but the new Mobile Memory Research Suite is a potential game changer for Alzheimer's-related clinical trial enrollment.
It can be 5 years from the time a study starts to the time that we end up with a medication that may be applied to this particular disorder. The drug companies have said if they could cut that period down to 1 year for enrollment from 2 years, that would tremendously help.
The question was, how could the USF Health Byrd Alzheimer's Institute do that?
We started off with just an idea. In fact, initially the idea was to just get a bus to drive them to the Institute. But now we've actually decided that we can accomplish this by bringing the clinical services directly to the general public.
That's where the 53-foot-long, $400,000 trailer, believed to be the first of its kind, comes in. The suite is designed to be taken to a location anywhere inside a 90-mile radius of the Institute and then left for a few days. Once there, Byrd staffers can speak with family members as well as test Alzheimer's patients in the suite's consultation rooms. There's also a phlebotomy room, complete with freezer, centrifuge, and patient chair where blood can be taken by a specialist. Currently, about 10 people willing to travel to Byrd's Tampa location are enrolled in the average clinical trial. With the mobile research suite, the reach is expanded to drugstores, grocery stores, anywhere an older Floridian is willing to travel.
But if we can take this to the villages, for example, and we can get 10 or 15 people there 1 week, and then the next week we're in Sun City Center, we get 10 or 15 people there, the next week we go to Lakeland, the week after that we go to East Tampa, we can actually get 40, 50, possibly 100 people involved in the clinical trial.
74-year-old Bill Nagley was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2009 and is currently enrolled in a clinical drug trial at Byrd. His wife, Sheila, says the traveling suite would help them greatly since they live in South St. Petersburg.
We have to drive for about an hour, and so if we had this portable facility where we could, maybe have a 15-minute drive or be in our community, that would be wonderful.
And Byrd officials plan to use the suite for more than just trial enrollment.
Well, we probably also will be doing things like memory screening here that we can do in communities. We may even provide some clinical services. So for people who may screen as having a problem, we could actually have a physician on the vehicle to do a diagnosis.
But no matter what it's used for, it's the suite's convenience that makes it such a difference maker.
My goal is that ultimately what will happen to participate in a clinical trial is we'll have older adults in their flip-flops and their golf carts coming in to be part of our clinical trials.
For University Beat, I'm Mark Schreiner.
Dr. Dave Morgan is the Chief Executive Officer and Director of the Byrd Alzheimer's Institute, and he joins us now on University Beat. Dr. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you.
Is there a misperception among the public that Alzheimer's and dementia are a normal part of aging?
No, they're not a normal part of aging. In fact, we know that there are many people who reach their 9th and 10th decades with perfectly intact cognitive function. They can live on their own independently and safely. But we do know that it increases with age, that 40% of people over the age of 85 have some form of dementia.
So what happens?
Well, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of genetics and lifestyle effects, and sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. But we know that there are things which can accumulate inside the brain, and if these things happen to be amyloid or tau, we now know that those are the major causes of Alzheimer's disease.
And when you say amyloid or tau, is that like plaque in the brain?
Yeah, so amyloid makes aggregations of protein outside of neurons that we call an amyloid plaque. Tau forms a long string that we call a tangle inside the neurons. And these plaques and tangles are what we use to define Alzheimer's disease when we examine the brain at an autopsy.
There's no treatment yet for dementia or Alzheimer's.
Well, we have symptomatic treatments. We have drugs that we can give you that will improve your memory. But as of this point, we don't have anything that can slow the progression of the disease. But we're working on that.
Yeah. And the other thing is that Alzheimer's is a form of dementia, correct? Dementia is the generic term.
Correct. Dementia refers to an age-associated decline in cognitive function that is secondary to damage to the brain. The damage can occur from a variety of sources, but it turns out that 2/3 of the cases of dementia at autopsy have the plaque and tangle pathology that Alzheimer described, and we call it Alzheimer's disease.
Talk about some of the treatments now, promising treatments, hopefully, that's on the horizon from the Byrd Institute.
Well, we've been paying a lot of attention to amyloid as an initiating factor in the disease. We think about this because we find that the mutations that can cause the familial forms of this disease, these mutations all increase the production of the amyloid. And we see the amyloid appearing before the tau shows up inside the neurons. And we think that that's what the key element is. So we're developing a number of drugs that will block the production of amyloid and other drugs that will help to get rid of amyloid that's already there. For example, an antibody against the amyloid that will provoke the immune system to come in and remove the amyloid from the brain.
Are there some people who are more predisposed to dementia or Alzheimer's than other people? And are there some behaviors that people do that may increase their chances of getting either dementia or Alzheimer's?
Well, there's a lot of epidemiologic data, but I think the most convincing evidence is that individuals who have had multiple head injuries often have an increased risk of developing dementia. We're very concerned about boxers, football players, possibly even soccer players who are always heading the ball, hockey players, that these people may be putting themselves at an increased risk. We also know that education seems to provide some protection. For example, someone who did not complete high school has 3 times the risk of developing dementia at a specific age than someone who has a postgraduate degree. So these are major factors.
But why would that be? Is it because they're not engaging their brain enough?
It's unclear why that is. It could be that your brain works like a muscle. You need to exercise it to maintain proper fitness. Or it may be that this is simply indicating people who had higher cognitive ability to begin with, and thus it requires more damage before their cognitive ability gets below the level that leads to dementia.
There's a multidisciplinary approach to researching and treating Alzheimer's at the Byrd Institute. Talk a little bit about what the approach is.
So we call ourselves a translational research center. And the whole idea is to try and move discoveries in the laboratories into the clinics where they're tested in patient populations as quickly as we possibly can. And so we have co-located our clinics that are serving patients and their families. They're also running clinical trials with medications. We have about 15 ongoing clinical trials right now at the Institute. And we're trying to take the ideas from the laboratories upstairs and get the scientists and the physicians to talk to each other much more frequently than they normally do.
Talk about caregiver services that are offered at the Institute.
Well, we have a number of opportunities for caregivers, from support groups that we provide for them. We also have training sessions that we provide for caregivers. We go out into the community and we have a half-day presentation to explain to them strategies that have been found to be effective in managing people who have dementia, what you can anticipate, what's going to happen next as they progress through the disease. We have a variety of programs that we can offer them.
What advancements in research or treatment give you a lot of hope?
Well, as I said, I think these anti-amyloid approaches will be useful in preventing the disease. But that's the easiest thing to do with every disease, is to find a way to prevent it. After that, we have to come up with meaningful treatments that can slow the progression of the disease. And our lab and many others are working on trying to reduce the effects of the tau tangles in the neurons, which we think are really what causes the destruction of the brain tissue. And I think by 2025, I anticipate we'll have some medications that even after you've gotten the disease will slow the progression. Right now, the drugs we have still can treat the symptoms and reverse the overall appearance of the disease and the symptoms by up to a year or maybe even 2 years. But it doesn't treat the underlying disease process. But the final stage in treating a disease is to cure it, to take someone who already has a moderate dementia and bring them back to where they were before. That is going to require breakthroughs. I don't see how we're going to do that right now in a scientific work plan. But prevention and treatment, I think we're well along on those pathways.
That's good news. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for
joining
joining us.
Pleasure.
Global climate change and its cause have been debated by scientists, politicians, and scholars for many years. But whatever the cause, most experts agree the planet is getting warmer. And a USF researcher says the higher temperatures may be linked to a threat we're already seeing here in Florida. Dr. Yogi Goswami explains in his own words.
But there are certain effects of global climate change that have not been talked about much in the media that people need to be aware of. Scientists even 20-25 years back were writing about viruses such as Ebola and Zika showing up at places where they did not exist before. And they were predicting that based on the rate at which climate was changing. We have seen that now happening in Florida, for example, Zika appearing over here, because we do have a warmer climate and we do have people coming from South America, Africa, and other places. The climate change combined with the increased mobility of people, which is making these things happen. So not all of the things transport by themselves, but sometimes people move and they can transport those things with them. Well, when we talk about a temperature rise of 1 degree or 2 degrees, for us as humans, it doesn't seem like it's something that's going to affect our life very much. But for microorganisms that are very small, that temperature rise is enough for them to start showing up at places where they did not exist before. Examples of these disease agents include Zika and Ebola and dengue and some of the other viruses. These are opportunistic species that then become freer to move around to other places. Obviously, we have to take care of the short term, which is whatever disease agents we are seeing like Zika, we have to take care of them. But at the same time, we have to start looking at the bigger picture, and that is, are there things we should be doing now that we can reverse some of those things for the future? Certain things we can do now that include improvement in energy efficiency or use of solar energy and other renewable energy resources that will reduce the effect on climate, and that in fact are positive for the climate. they present an economic opportunity for us. And we should go ahead. Sooner or later we have to do it. In about 50 years, half of our energy will have to come from solar energy. We have no choice. So if that is the case, why not start now when the opportunity is there and people and companies can actually make money, and it also helps our environment. So we should be doing that now rather than wait until we have no other choice.
Dr. Goswami was one of 2 USF professors inducted last week into the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame. Goswami was honored for his development of a method to store energy generated by solar power systems. He also designed a portable indoor molecular air purifier. Inducted with Goswami was Dr. Bill Dalton, chairman of the Department of Interdisciplinary Oncology at USF. Dalton also is CEO of a subsidiary of the Moffitt Cancer Center and Research Institute. He was honored for his research that led to the creation of total cancer care, personalized protocols now used by clinicians worldwide. Dr. Paul Sandberg, USF Senior Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Development, is chairman of the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame.
I think people get surprised, actually, that there are great inventors in Florida. You know, this is not one of the places that you would think. You'd think of the Northeast, think California, but we have so many great inventors here over decades in this country.
Goswami and Dalton were among 7 Florida inventors inducted this year. The Hall of Fame is located at the USF Research Park on the Tampa campus. Among its inductees are Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. Prospective freshmen can get a first-hand look at USF Sarasota Manatee campus next month. The campus will hold a freshman preview day on Saturday, October 8th from 9 a.m. until noon. Representatives from the admissions office and from student services will be at the open house, as well as faculty and staff from the 4 colleges on the Sarasota Manatee campus. This week in USF history, one of the biggest football victories ever for the Bulls. On September 28, 2007, USF knocked off then number 5 ranked West Virginia before a sold-out crowd at Raymond James Stadium. The Bulls won their first 6 games that season and made the school's first ever appearance in the BCS rankings.
Flowers gives Matt up the middle. Touchdown, USF!
And this year's team is off to a pretty good start as well. The Bulls defeated Syracuse September 17th, 45-20, despite trailing by 17 points after the first quarter. Rodney Adams and Marlon Mack both scored 2 touchdowns for USF. With the victory, the Bulls improved their record to 3-0, their best start since 2011.
On the end around, it's an easy touchdown for Rodney Adams, and the Bulls take the lead.
Football's not the only fall sport off to a good start. USF's volleyball team won its first 6 matches of the season. The Lady Bulls then dropped 3 in a row, but bounced back with victories over Stetson, Wright State, and LIU Brooklyn. The women's soccer team is off to an even better start. They've won their first 7 games, 5 of them by shutouts. On the men's side, the soccer team is 3-3-2. But the last 3 matches have been victories, including a 3-0 win over previously undefeated Buffalo. Right now, USF teams compete in the American Athletic Conference, but that could be changing. The school has applied for membership in the Big 12 Conference, should that league, a Power 5 conference, decide to expand. USF's application included a video with facts and figures about the school and testimonials from some of its best-known ambassadors.
Green and gold is in our DNA. I think it's part of who we are. We have grown together.
This university is a catalyst for the visionaries of this region.
These are first-rate people who are on a mission to make this university one of the very best in the country.
USF has consistently ranked in the top tier of all of the universities in Florida.
They have a great student body. They feed us very talented individuals who then make up our business community. It's a big part of who we are at Tampa.
It's the kind of vibrant area that attracts people with all kinds of options to come here and make this their home.
I think the Big 12 would be surprised to know how many people in the Tampa area are really behind the USF Bulls. There are so many sports fans here that just love the university and love to see college athletics.
We get a lot of athletic talent that comes to USF, and we would bring a keen amount of athleticism and electricity to the conference.
USF is definitely ready. They have some great facilities here they've built over the last 5 or 6 years. The programs are top-notch, great coaches, great athletic director, and the weather. The fans of the Big 12 will love coming down here to watch their teams play.
This is the place that you want to be. It's a great sports town. It's a growing university. This is a city that's coming into its own. This could be a great marriage.
We are not afraid to take risks. We are the city of watch this, and we have got the leadership in place to take this city to the next level.
We're the 11th largest television market in the country. So I think you get the benefits of a lot of people, but still that small town feel.
We have almost 5 million people in our neighborhood who we all know each other.
We've seen so much growth over the last 6 years. Population is increasing about 2.5% a year. Probably over 50%, 70% of the population here moved from somewhere else. And across the board, you find out that they were welcomed.
And you don't find that in any other major metropolitan area, I don't think, in the country.
It is a special place. Every day is fresh here, every day is new, and you have a chance to make a mark here.
The quality of life is excellent. It's a great business environment, cultural institution.
Home to the Buccaneers, home to the Rays, home to the Lightning.
We have great restaurants, the beaches are beautiful.
It's just a joy to be here and to be in this position, to even have an opportunity to get into a conference such as, the Big 12 is phenomenal.
I guarantee you, when the Big 12 comes to this area, and when they make USF part of their community, we will all be 100% behind them, and they will never regret that decision.
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
We'll see you on the field.
There's no word on when the Big 12 will decide whether to expand, and if it does, by how many teams. A number of other AAC members, including the University of Central Florida, are said to be eyeing Big 12 membership. What would it be like to redesign an entire city? Some USF students are finding out firsthand. University Beat's Hedel Gandhi introduces us to a project designed to give one local area a major facelift.
Welcome to Palmetto. Located just north of Bradenton, this Gulf Coast city has maintained much of its pristine beauty.
A lot of people don't like change. Change is hard, but change is necessary if you're going to survive. And not only if you're going to survive, but if you're going to be the best that you can be.
For Burton, the mission is personal.
Being born in Palmetto, Florida, I want my city to be the best that it can be. And that's why USF is coming. They're going to help us figure that out.
A USF grad himself, Burton is thrilled to team up with the school for the Community Sustainability Partnership Program, also known as CUSP.
We are so excited that Palmetto is our first partner because they really have a wide array of projects that students can get involved in, from historic preservation to community asset mapping to victimology to community policing and to looking at complete streets and how they can improve their wayfaring. They're even looking at water quality. So we have students that are going to be really hitting the ground running here in Palmetto on a variety of projects, and we might see a whole new Palmetto thanks to USF, so we're really excited about that.
As part of this renaissance era of sorts for the city of Palmetto, they will use the knowledge of USF students to figure out what to do with historic buildings like this old armory, perhaps even turn it into something similar to the Tampa Theater.
And we want them to look at it in terms of the future. What would that street need to have about it that would want to draw that generation, the millennial generation, into Palmetto?
Students are already working on a $14 million multimodal project that will encourage pedestrian and bike traffic on the waterfront. And that's just the beginning.
What's the best we can be as far as economic development? What's the best we can be with our land use, with our downtown? We have so many great assets that have yet to be discovered or used.
It's a project that gets students out of the classroom and into the city, a city they will help reshape.
I think that Palmetto deserves that caliber of expertise.
For University Beat, I'm Hetal Gandhi.
If there's a story about the University of South Florida you'd like to see us cover, there's a new way to let us know. You can download the new WUSF app. There's a contact link. Just put University Beat in the subject line. You can also reach us via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching University Beat TV. Our email is ubeat@wusf.org, and our website is universitybeattv.org. And that's University Beat for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Denise White.